All right, everybody, welcome to the stream. Um, it transitioned over. And I think we're good to go. All right. Just a couple of things to mention. Past week was a crazy one for me. Um, and because of that, I didn't get a lot of streaming done. Actually, I didn't get any. I do apologize for that. There's just been a lot going on. I'm hoping to have that all clear up here soon. Are just our Angular packages right now. Well, all of our packages really. Today we are back into replacing ComponentStore with SignalStore, and then we'll see how far we get into that. I think there's going to be a lot of tests that need to be fixed today, and a lot of other things like that. I also want to look at the structure as we do this, and be very thoughtful about how we approach this, and not just, you know, sometimes it's really tempting to, just as you're working on things, just get them done, right? The opposite end is very tempting for me too, right? To be a perfectionist. The reality is software gets built somewhere in between, like good software gets built somewhere in between being a perfectionist and just getting things done, right? Quite often it sits closer to just getting things done. And there's nothing wrong with that. Um, hey, Ole, welcome to the stream. It's good to see you too. Um, so, right, like just getting things done pays the bills, right? Um, the problem with just getting things done is often when you're just getting things done, you're not considering uh, the whole project, right? And again, there's the spectrum, right? Where there's the perfectionist who wants the code to be perfect. Code's never going to be perfect. I struggle with the perfectionist in me. The other side of the spectrum is let's just get it done, right? And I've already said that, but the let's just get this done is a very effective strategy. The trade-off when you're doing that is you're creating legacy code, right? And I keep using that term, but legacy code is kind of the replacement for tech debt, right? If you go into your manager's office today and say, "Hey, we need to work on our tech debt," your manager's just going to instantly shut down, right? And really anybody, right? Because tech debt is got so much negative connotation with it, and we've misused the term tech debt. Right? Tech debt, when used properly, should be stuff that we take on intentionally, knowing the trade-offs that we're making and knowing that we're going to have to pay it down. Quite often, when we do things, we don't create intentional tech debt. We just take on debt without realizing it, right? We create legacy code. I call it legacy code because everywhere I've gone and worked, there's always this legacy system or this legacy code that nobody wants to touch, right? It was written by all the worst developers who've long since moved on. The code sucks. Nobody wants to touch it. If you touch something over here breaks, right? That's legacy code. Legacy code happens I'm going to say most of the time, well, I'm going to say all of the time when you're just getting things done, right? Um, and legacy code doesn't just happen overnight. What happens is, you're getting things done. You find this ugly piece of code. You put in a quick hack or a kludge or whatever you want to call it, right? Um, and you add the comment, right? We need to fix this. This is just a quick fix for blah blah blah. That quick fix, there's nothing more permanent than a temporary fix, right? Um, so you add in a hack on top of another hack, right? And then eventually somebody else comes in and sees your hack and they go, ugh, I don't want to touch this. Let's add another hack and another hack. And before you know it, kind of use the DDD term, you've got a big ball of mud, right? Because you've just been band-aiding and welding things on and bolting things on. And there's that famous XKCD um, of everything being held up by a tiny little block, right? They've got this big giant castle built, and at the very, very bottom, there's this little tiny block where if that breaks, the whole thing falls. That's legacy code, right? And we've all worked on it. We've probably created it. Um, and a little while ago, I watched a video. Like, if you guys don't watch the Primeagen, why not? like, but I watched a video by the Primeagen, and he was reviewing a video about how all effective code is ugly code, right? And basically, the idea was um, companies that are shipping products have ugly stuff underneath, right? So I'm not I'm not trying to say that, I am trying to say you should try to avoid it when possible. I will say that um, it is not always possible to avoid um, quick fixes, right? Um, there's always time constraints. Um, there's always competing concerns. There's right, and if you're in the position to push for quality, you should always push for quality. Um, right? Always push for quality over quantity, but um, don't be rigid and dig your heels in, right? That's the way you get moved out of the way, right? Everybody will move past you. You've got to be flexible. You've got to realize that the business needs to make money, and that's the real that's the real concern, right? Um, when it comes down to it, the business doesn't care how pretty your code is. Um, they do care is if you're costing them money or if you're delivering and hitting your deadlines, right? Um, all right, so we're good. We have upgraded everything. So we've updated our dependencies. And now I just want to make sure that everything runs. So what I'm saying is I want to put some thought into this to show you, if you're doing this, you know, putting a little bit of thought doesn't take a lot of effort and time. And effort and time often translate into money when a business is looking at things. Um, sorry, I want to make sure that I didn't break any linters or anything like that, like I did last time. But anyways, um, if you want to be a developer who's going to be sought after, right? Um, your concern should be how do I help the business make money, right? Um, and if you get known, no unused vars. Okay. Um, oh, this is the storybook stuff that we try to get rid of. The grid computed feature. Um, we'll figure this one out too. Oh, the no unused vars. We can modify this one so underscore is allowed. Um, let's do that. Um, but anyway, to complete my thought, because my brain is going in a million different directions right now. Um, there are a whole bunch of different types of developers that you can be. The one that will always be sought after is the one that's going to make businesses money, right? That's why they're hiring you, right? They want to make money. Um, and so, learning what your business does, right? Like what are its core principles? Who are its customers? What do its customers want, right? Um, learning about the software that you're working on, and not just the specific area that you're focused on, but the across the entire company. That gets increasingly difficult as the size of the software grows and the size of the company grows. Um, so you don't need to really know it in depth, but understanding what different teams do, what parts they touch, and even how you can help them will make you a better developer and help you to do cross-functional things at your company, right? Um, understanding trade-offs, right? Understanding when it's important to say, no, we need to do this right versus we need to get this done, right? Um, quite often, your gut will tell you, no, we need to do this right. Your business sense will say, no, we need to get this done, right? So quite often you'll be in conflict with yourself. Um, and that happens. Um, and sometimes just um, understanding the cost of what you're asking for can help you help decision makers make better decisions, if that makes sense. Um, so anyway, that's kind of my rant for the day, I guess. Um, so TypeScript ESLint, no unused vars. So let's turn that off. So we can go to our ESLint RC. Um, and do we have TypeScript ESLint? No. Okay. So let's go to our browser. Um, and let's look up TypeScript ESLint, no unused vars. Must have something turned off in my browser right now. What do I have running? uBlock. Yeah. Um, so no unused vars extends no unused locals and no unused parameters. We can add an ignore pattern. So this is what we want right here. really, we can just grab all of this and paste it into our ESLint, and that should fix things up for us. Trying to decide where I want to put it. Start.ts. This one hits TS, TSX, JS, and JSX. I think this is probably a good place to put it. So inside of here, we've already got rules. I'm gonna paste this anyway, and then we'll grab this. We'll just move this rule up. That one can go. That comma can go. And here, we're good. So basically what we've done is we said that we're going to check all args. If any args start with an underscore, so underscore starts with an underscore, so it'll be ignored. We're going to catch all errors. And so we've got it set as an error right now. I'm curious if we run this. See, it was set as a warning before. If we run this, we shouldn't get any errors. I'm going to leave it as an error because I do like to get unused vars caught. Hey, Erfun, welcome to the stream, my friend. Um, so unused vars are often a sign of other issues. Code that could be better cleaned up or things like that. This storybook stuff really bothers me. And I remember struggling with it last time. I'm not going to struggle with it a ton today. We're just going to let this be. So now if we go here and we change this underscore to like a T, right? Now it should, oh, interesting. It should have caught that as an error. And maybe I need to restart my ESLint or WebStorm, because that one should be caught as an error now. And the reason that we allow the underscore to say, hey, ignore this variable, is there are times when you are going to have unused variables. Oh, that's interesting. It is not picking that one up. Very interesting. Why isn't it picking that one up? So like if I come down here and I just do a function test, use this one, and skip this one, right? Have I broken the rule? I think I've broken my rule. Because we should have some errors here. We do have some warnings. What are my warnings? So they're still being picked up as warnings. But if I run this linter, Hmm. What have I done? Time to go see if I understand the rule. Maybe I've disabled something by just copying and pasting a rule. For example, the vars ignore pattern can customize what names are always allowed to be exempted. TypeScript hard-coded exemptions to names starting with underscore. If you would like to emulate TypeScript, yeah. So this is the TypeScript version. Oh, no unused vars off. So this extends the ESLint, no unused vars. And ESLint has some args, right? Our rule is set to be all args. We've got an args ignore pattern. Caught errors. We do want it to be checking all of our caught errors, but any that start with underscore, yes. Destructured array, yes. Vars ignore, yes. Ignore rest siblings. That might be. That doesn't explain what's going on here, though. Um, so here we're doing TSS and JS. Um, hey, nice to see you also. Open JSON stream titled linting config. Yeah, I tend to get stuck in those, don't I? Um, so we're enforcing the module boundaries. Like this should be catching it. Um, but the crazy thing is that with that rule in place, we're not even getting the warning anymore. If we look up above, we had this warning. We don't get that warning anymore. If I put this back to an underscore, let's flip this around. Let's use skip this one and see what the cause is. Yeah. I hear you, Michael. At some point, giving up is often the easier way to go. And I may debug this after. That is so weird. I'm so I'm so bothered by this. Um, so here's the crazy thing, right? Let's just take this out. So now we're just back to the enforce module boundaries. Um, and we're probably going to get a warning about the underscore. See, the reason that I like to debug this and figure this stuff out is, there we go. That is so weird. So now if I add this back in, let's just take out my args, right? So we will take this and we'll just say, hey, you're an error. That's it. You're just an error. Let's see if now it converts it over to an error. But anyway, yeah, config file. Don't say I spent half the day in a JSON config file. Exactly. That goes back to the kind of the stuff we were talking about earlier, right? Where your job is to make money. One of the frustrating things is how good we get at. Okay. Okay, I know what's going on here. I know what's going on here. So we're in the wrong ESLint file, and this is because of how NX has to do linting. So let's go here and NX no unused bars. There's a NX override rules in NX. What is that rule set called? So yeah, NX TypeScript. Override rules in NX TypeScript, I believe, is the way to find this one. NX/TypeScript. So, and maybe this is the one we're looking for. NX has to run the linter in a special way, right? And so notice here that the ESLint is actually not the root ESLint. It's in the apps tusk desk, right? And then there's some overrides in here. And so TypeScript await thenable. So then they turn on this overrides for it, right? Look at that issue. This is the parser option stuff. But basically, when we want to override rules, we need to do them in inside of our inside of each project. So what do we do, right? In this case, here's the pattern that I follow. What I will do is right next to my ESLint, I'm going to add a file. And we're going to add a new TypeScript file, or is it JS? ESLint, it's an RC, right? It's a JSON file. So we're going to add a new JSON file, right? A new JSON file. Where are my JSON files? Ignore file, PowerShell. So here we're just going to say eslint.overrides.json. And we can even say we can call these .nx overrides, right? .json. This file is where we're going to add our stuff. And so what we can do is, if we take a look at the structure of our ESLint rc.json, the overrides sits here. So we want our overrides to sit inside of this overrides file. So what we can do is we can just say, hey, our overrides are going to be an array. And then we can paste in our rule. Need opening curly brace there. Error is there, and then we need a closing curly brace, and oh, I don't have a closing one there, and I need that. And there we go. Format. There we go. So these are our overrides. Why did we do this, right? Well, now we can go into our libraries. And the one that we're having issues with right now is our components. We can go into our ESLint JC here. And you can see that we've already got some overrides in here. So I've got it wrong. This needs to be rules. So what we want to do here is, instead of doing this, we're going to do rules. And we're basically going to add this to our config. And actually, we don't even need that. We do need that. I'm looking for, there it is. So these are our rules. So now if we come into here, we can go to our rules right here. And we need to import, oh, that doesn't work. You can't import something into a JSON object, can I? Import. Yeah, JSON doesn't understand import. doesn't work. I need to remember how to do this. For now, we're just going to take this rule and we will put it inside of this library here. So here, and then paste that one in. And now our no unused vars should work. Is there a lib like that for lint configs? I miss the simple Angular CLI apps. Yeah. Angular CLI apps definitely have their place. And the Angular CLI, there we go. There we go. So we fixed it. So now it's ignoring the underscore and it's giving us errors for the appropriate ones. And that's what you do. I remember there's a way to do this. How do I override an NX rule in my whatever? So you extend ESLint RC, you add your overrides. Oh. That's how you do it. Right there. So in my libs, ESLint RC here, extends that, overrides. This is the part I was trying to remember how to do. So you can extend it, but within the overrides, you can add an extends. And then we can add our stuff in here. So if we take this, we take it out. And then we go back to our ESLint here. And if we take a look at the structure that they put for their overrides, it's just overrides. So we just need to put our overrides and our rules in here. So if we paste our rule back in here, and then we just need to add, and if we look, they're using an object with overrides in it, and then the files and the rules. So we're going to add ours in there also. So here we just do overrides. So our override will be here. No, that's not what we wanted. We want that. Overrides. I need curly braces here also on my rules. There we go. And then here we can just do files. And we do want that we want, I don't care about TSX, but I do care about JS. Whoops, it's not the one I wanted. This is the one I wanted. Yeah, okay. So now what we can do is we can go into our ESLint file, and we can just add extends to it. So here in the overrides, we can say, hey, this also extends goes inside. Oh, we've already got it here. We've already got it here. So we can just add our link here. So we go dot dot slash dot dot slash ESLint dot nx dot overrides dot JSON. Is that far enough back? So this one is in libs components, right? Libs components off the root, and this one is right off the root. So we're good here. Something we could do is format with prettier. Let's go into prettier. Go to our prettier settings, and inside of here, let's add JSON also. So it's just doing that for us. So there we go. Now we've got the extension happening, and now if I lint it, we should get that warning. And the nice thing about this is that now that we've got this extension, oh, I was worried about something. But now that we've got this extension, we can go into all of our other projects and add them also as needed. Yeah, make a specific file with rules and extend. And so now we're getting the rules as we should. And so now we can go in, and if we go here, like if I preface this with an underscore, and this with an underscore, then it's not going to yell at me in the linter anymore. And that's the behavior that that I wanted, right? I'm not going to say that we wanted, but that's the behavior I want. And the reason that I do this is that I want to, you know, I was mentioning it earlier, but as humans, we get incredibly good at ignoring stuff. So notice now that by adding the underscores, we've fixed up our issues. And so if we just remove this, it now doesn't care about the underscore up here, but if I add that, now it's giving us an error, right? Saying, hey, you never used this. So there we go. Now we're in a good place, but I keep interrupting my thought. The reason that I do this, as humans, we get incredibly good at teaching ourselves to ignore things, right? So if there's a whole bunch of warnings in the console, we ignore the pattern of warnings in the console should just be ignored, right? We don't ever pick up on, hey, there's new warnings, right? Our brains aren't that good. We just teach them, hey, if there's warnings, just ignore them, right? It's the same way with anything else, right? We're really, really good at filtering out the white noise, but we aren't good at seeing, hey, has the white noise changed, right? And so if you let warnings just persist and persist and persist, what you're doing is you're actually teaching all your developers to ignore warnings. Um, because again, as humans, we're really, really good at saying, oh, something new happened, right? But if there's always warnings in the console, it's like, oh, there's always warnings, just ignore them. If we fix all the warnings and the warnings go away, everybody will be like, oh, wait, something new happened. There's no warnings in the console, right? And then after a while, you get used to there being no warnings. And so as soon as a warning pops up, everybody's like, oh, wait, what's this warning? Right? Um, that's why I suggest, taking some time and making sure that you're not teaching the engineers at your company to ignore warnings. You're not teaching them to ignore, the compiler output. Um, One of the things that you can do to help your quality immensely is not ignore it, right? If you're getting a warning, there's usually a good reason. Um, and they're usually easy fixes as long as you don't let them pile up, right? It's like anything in development. The fixes are typically easier at the beginning, but if you let them pile up, right? And that's why we call it tech debt. It just gets harder and harder to pay it down. Anyway, um, we only spent an hour on a linting rule. Ah, um, so fix no unused bars rule. And this kind of goes counter to my just get it done argument. And that's the reality of development, right? Um, there's always trade-offs. Everything has trade-offs to it. And we want to make sure that we're making the right trade-offs, right? Um, if you're concerned about code quality, ignoring warnings and errors are a good way to let your code quality go down. Um, but again, there's that trade-off, right? I spent 45 minutes, right? Nearly an hour working on how to get this rule worked out. Um, Hopefully I showed you guys something good that you can do. And I always have to remind myself how to do this. I know that you can do it, but every time I go to do it, I have to remind myself how. Because once you've got it set up, then it works for your project, right? Your project rarely changes, and any rules that you want to override, you just go to that file and you override them. So I always forget the details because you only do it every so often, and then once it's done, and right. Um, but it's a good trick to know. Um, what? Running low on memory? That's fascinating. I haven't done. Take a look at this later. But we can configure our memory here. Um, oh, now that I'm looking at you, you decide to be smaller, right? So we can see we're using a bunch of our. We went over the 2048. I believe we can configure our memory. Um, ooh, JSON to TS. I thought we disabled this one before. I'll show you guys how to fix this one. Let's go in here and let's look for JSON to TS. You don't update, you get removed. So to fix this, we can actually configure our memory usage. If we go to the toolbox here, we can go to the settings, and under configuration here, I've got my heap size set to 2048. Let's give it twice as much memory. So now we've gone to 4096. I recommend doing this. It can help WebStorm run faster. 8 gigs. Should I give it 8 gigs? So I've got 64 gigs of RAM on this laptop. I'm going to give it 8 gigs. But just to get here, just to show you guys, right? Go into your toolbox, click the little menu here, go to settings, and then drop down configuration, and it's going to be right here, the maximum heap size. So once we do that, it's going to reconfigure, the JVM, and it's going to launch it with a bigger heap size. And you'll see down here that I've told it the max heap size is now 8192, right? It's going to be smart about how much it allocates, but it's not going to tell me that it ran out of memory until we surpass 8 gigs of RAM. So right now we're already at 3200 megs, right? So 3 gigs is what it's using. And we can take a look and see what is using all of that. Heap summary. We've got a memory leak somewhere. This right here is telling me that it's only reachable through a disposer tree. There's something that's leaving things around it that's leaking memory. I'm going to send this report. I'll let JetBrains look at it. Because we've been running this for a long time without issues, and this is the first time we've run into this issue. So I'm curious what caused it. And where this is all open source, I don't care if they see, what plugins and code and stuff I have open. When you've got stuff like this at work, definitely be much more careful and potentially ask, is it okay if I submit this? Because you don't know what like legal and compliance might need from you, right? Anyway, let's take a look at our grid store. Our grid store is actually pretty small, right? We set up the initial state, and then we've got our computed stuff. And our computed just adds the selected and the next to focus, right? And we're computing these instead of putting them in the store, because they can be computed based on what's selected and things like that, which is one of the things that I highly recommend if you're using ComponentStore or you're using SignalStore. Compute stuff rather than put it in the store if you can. Well, that's not even true. I was going to say if the computation is expensive, you might consider putting it in the store, but that's not even true because the way SignalStore and ComponentStore work is that your computed properties will only be computed when the stuff that they rely on changes, and you would run that computation anyway, right? They're going to be memealized. Yeah, yeah, Jan does some amazing stuff. Um, he he's really good at his job. And if um, you guys don't know Jan, just contact contact JetBrains about WebStorm, and you'll probably talk to Jan. Um, Pretty amazing guy, very very helpful, very very friendly, and just an amazing member of the community. Anyway, so we've basically moved some stuff from the store out, right? So, what did we move out? We moved out. So notice here, selected. We did a selector before, so we were computing selected, right? We're now using a computer to do it. Same with next to focus, right? So now we need to look at, so command stack is a private variable, another private. So these are all private. So they're being used internally. So we'll take a look at them. So we initialize the state update selected. So we're going to need a piece to update the selected. Michael says, I prefer computed in SignalStore because we use it for a limit scope of things, but I wish I could tap into the computed state easier with store features. So here's a trick, Michael. Let's say I want to create a computed that uses selected, right? How do you do that? Well, one way to do it is to turn selected into a function. But my current favorite way to do it is just go, hey, with computed, and now we can say, hey, use selected, right? And this can be computed. And now we can say, hey, return state.selected. Boom. Right? And so now we're using a computed property in another computed property. And so this is my current favorite trick, because it's compositional, right? So we can layer that composition. We can say, hey, create these computed properties, but then I want to turn around and use them in more computed properties. And so I don't know if that helps you out, but that's my new favorite current trick. Yeah. And I do this all the time. So, I'll do with methods and then add another with methods, or with methods and then computed, or right, with computed and then with method, right? So, because it's compositional and it goes top to bottom, there's no rule that says we only have to have one with computed. Right. I used to do the function method, but the function method actually led to some weirdness, and to some other difficulties. And then programmers who aren't used to like a functional approach often would struggle with the functional method. If we just do multiples, right? There's no rule against that, so why not? So that's my trick, and it helps quite a bit, right? It really is a big help. Hey, Abradores. Hey, man. Hope you're doing okay. I decided to start. Oh, road to 2 years unemployed. So You guys, Abradores is a friend of the channel. He's been with us forever. He's a personal friend also, and um, you guys should check out his stream. You're free to post your Twitch channel here, Abradores. Um, when are you going to start streaming? I would, um, you know, message me, and let me know when you're going to start streaming. I would love to show up to your first stream. Um, oh, you're joking, dude? I actually thought it was an amazing concept. Um, I thought it was a good concept. I think from personal discussions that we've had, I think you have some amazing insight that you could share. Um, and I don't know. I don't know how much time you have and things like that, right? Like streaming's not easy. And that's part of why, like last week, there was so much going on and things had to go. And last week, Monday and Thursday streaming, I couldn't do it. And so, if you guys want to get into streaming, I'm happy to help you guys out. But it is work. Um, Try my hand at Golang and try to land contractor jobs together with my React skills. Marcus, welcome to the stream, man. Good to see you. Golang is very interesting, and that's one of the things that I'm also debating. There are a couple of languages that I want to learn. And if you guys don't know, like one of my absolute Zen gaming series, I think I've talked about this before, but for me, Farming Simulator is like total Zen. I love it because it reminds me of my childhood, but it's the stuff about my childhood I liked, not the stuff about farming that I hated. The stuff about farming that I hated was like moving wheel lines. And when I was a kid, I would walk up and down the sugar beet rows with a hoe and knock the weeds out of the rows. Like that kind of stuff I hated. It was so boring. It sucked. You're outside in 90-degree weather, just doing horrible stuff. But driving trucks, driving tractors, things like that, that's the stuff I loved. That's what Farming Simulator allows me to do in a very zen and much smaller form factor. For Farming Simulator 22, I tried to write a mod manager very similar to like Mod Organizer or Vortex or something like that for Farming Simulator. I tried to do it in .NET. .NET does not give you low enough hooks to do what I wanted to do. I wanted to create virtual directories. So you could manage different folders of mods, and the mod organizer would be smart enough to know, oh, this mod was added, let's put it in a different folder. And then it could join the folders together and then present that folder to the OS as the mods folder for the game, right? Which would allow you some really powerful things that you could do. .NET doesn't allow you to shim that low. Rust does. When Farming Simulator 25 comes out, I may have to learn Rust and see if I can write a shim, and maybe work on a mod organizer. Yeah, it is. Farming Simulator's been around forever, dude. The next release is Farming Simulator 2025. I picked it up in 2017. So that's almost a decade that I've been playing it, right? It's just such a zen game for me, especially modded. Modded allows you to interact with these tractors in the way that they behave modern. Like modern tractors are crazy. So I grew up on a potato farm in Idaho. And like when I was a kid, there were only certain people who were allowed to plant sugar beet rows and potato rows, right? Because keeping the tractor straight was so difficult, and the skills that people needed to keep that tractor straight so you don't have rows that go like this. You want straight rows so that your harvest and everything goes well, right? And so there were only certain people that were allowed to run the potato planter and then the sugar beet planter. And then after that, they'll run cultivators through them, which build up the mounds. And again, only certain people were allowed because you had to keep the tractor so straight, right? Once the mounds got tall enough, the tractor tended to keep itself straight because the wheels are set so that they fit in between the rows, and the front wheels fit in between the rows. And then it's kind of like bumper cars, where it's more work to get out of the rows than in them. But early on, when you're first planting and you're doing the first cultivations and stuff, it took a lot of concentration and effort to keep the rows straight. So only certain people were allowed to do. That's not the way it is anymore. Now what you do is you drive out there in your pickup truck and you put a GPS locator beacon in one corner of the field, put a GPS locator beacon in the other corner of the field. Then you go to the tractor, you get in the tractor, you punch in the field number, the tractor knows the GPS coordinates, the two locator beacons give it higher resolution, and the tractor is now accurate to within an inch. And now your job as the driver is you basically turn off the GPS at the end of the road, turn the track. Well, and sometimes you don't even have to do that. Sometimes the tractor will just turn itself around because it knows the width of the implement. As soon as you plug the implement in, it knows all sorts of stuff about it. But your job is to watch out for, we do wheel lines, and so there are risers, they're called, in the middle of the field. We called it the main line. And that's where the pump would pump water out to the different wheel lines. Your job was to make sure the tractor didn't run over wheel lines, and your job was to make sure that the tractor didn't run over the risers. They're these pipes that would stick out of the ground about that far. And that's where the wheel lines would attach to get their water. For me, 2017 is like yesterday. I lost the concept of time. You're getting old, dude. Years go by faster when you've experienced a lot more years, right? I remember as a kid, a year was a long time. Now as an adult, we're almost, we're to September. 9 months of this year is gone, and I'm like, where did the year go? So this is getting me hungry. Ooh, yeah, man. Abradores has sent me some amazing pictures of pizzas and stuff. Where he lives in Italy, the food looks amazing. Anyway, I'm way distracted. I got sniped. So we need to start moving some stuff over, right? Update selected is one that's important. So we are going to move this one over. So we can come in here and let's go to the store. For right now, we're going to do it inside of here, and then we'll refactor when we know what it looks like, right? We're going to bring in with methods. We're going to grab the state because we're going to need it. What is going on there? That was weird. So we're going to return our methods, right? And the first method we want is update selected. Update selected. So this is an important thing to understand. ComponentStore by default included what we call an RX method in SignalStore. So notice here, update selected will take an observable or value, and it returns a subscription. We need to replicate that in our store. So our update selected needs to be an RX method, and we'll import that. Yeah, I wanted you to do that. Why are you not importing? There we go. So our RX method is going to take something, and inside of here, we're going to do some stuff with it, right? here we're calling an update selected. Where am I getting that from? So we're using a function here to do this, and we're using write. Write uses where's my write function? So write is using that's interesting. So write is from using mutative. This create function is from mutative. And then we're calling this updater draft as S. I'm curious if I can copy these two functions over. So let's see if I can grab update selected. I'm gonna put that in our grid store here. And then this uses write, so we also want to use write. So we're going to grab that. Oops. And we're going to copy that here. But one thing I want to do is, we're using a function here. Why are we exporting this function? I don't want that. But here, we want to call this just a function. Update selected. Boom. And we want that. And that. And the reason I'm converting these to functions instead of methods or instead of exported named constants is functions will be hoisted. Do I need to make draft as an S? Does this not work anymore? What is a type of draft? Is it draft S? We can say that it takes a draft of type S. There we go. So update select is not used. So let's go take a look at our grid state now in the old store. Take a look at our update selected. I'm really curious if this is going to work. Update selected. This is huge. Update selected. The other thing is that got some weird shadowing going on here, right? Because this update selected matches this update selected. But luckily this is on the object and this isn't. But this is our updater. It takes in cell state. and it returns a grid state. Where is this used? Did I not just disable that plugin? JSON. Oh, I improperly called this one out. It's this one by Bone Viddy. My thoughts on Elixir. Elixir is amazing, and the people who use it are magicians. I'm not at that level yet. Elixir is something that I would love to learn because I'm a very big fan of um, functional programming. Is Farming Sim a spreadsheets type game? No, 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 no. Um, let's go to the store, search for Farming Simulator. So here's Farming Simulator 25. Whoa, that was loud. You guys probably didn't hear that. I can't play the audio because I'm sure it's probably copyrighted. But Michael, this is Farming Simulator. So this is hilarious. They're checking the soil values and stuff there. But I was thinking about Americans. If you pick up Elixir, you'll make good money. But so one of the new machines they're adding is rice farming. So this is a rice planter, which is amazing to see a machine that can plant rice seedlings like this. Yeah, the water boiling is not actual gameplay. This is probably not actual gameplay either. But it's so the person. Yeah, this is Farming Simulator right here. This is what 25 will look like. Is that tractor there? I've never done the flooding rice paddies. But yeah, like this is probably what you could get with like a 5090. And like it's a lot of fun to play with my brothers because like what you're seeing here is very common in farming, where you'll have somebody running the combine, right, the harvester, and then next to it you've got the grain cart, and the reason for the grain cart is that you'll typically have like your trucks or your semis parked somewhere, and then the grain cart will move between the harvesters, and the grain cart's job is to keep the harvesters moving. You don't want the harvesters to stop. And so you'll see them unloading like this. And so like when I play with my brothers, one of us will run the harvester, one of us will be running the grain cart, and then while the harvester's filling up, typically we'll be unloading the trucks and stuff. So it's very, very similar to like a big farm operation. Garlic. Yeah, exactly. It's an amazing game, but it's definitely not a spreadsheet game. You can make it a spreadsheet game if you wanted to, and I know people who do, but it is definitely not a spreadsheet game. Um, yeah, update select. So let's. I want to figure out where this is used and what is going on here. Generate SCSS action. Do I have a generate SCSS action? Markup to SCSS, maybe? Try disabling that one. This is this is almost a bit like gaming to me, because I am somebody who likes to mod things a lot. Let's minimize that. And in modding, there's often things that are broken. Like I just spent a good deal of time figuring out what was wrong with my XCOM install. And turns out that the reason that my XCOM game was crashing had nothing to do with the mods, and it was everything to do with the way the game is written. So XCOM 2 is a bit of a buggy game. Surprise, surprise, coming from EA. Um, but there's an interesting bug. So I didn't realize this, but a lot of people don't like the Templar in XCOM 2. I tend to like the Templar with a Blade Storm build. The Templar is a melee class in XCOM 2. One of the things that I liked to choose to power up the Templar quickly was this power called Channel. Channel allowed enemies to drop power that gave the Templar focus, and the Templar's focus powers up his melee, right? Um, if you use Channel with the Templar, and you use anybody who's got the autocannon, um, and you give that autocannon like acid rounds or something like that, something that's going to apply like bleed or any kind of dot to the enemy, it's going to crash the game. Right? And for the longest time, I thought it was the mods doing this. Finally, I found a thread talking about it. I respect my Templar to not use channel, and suddenly, no problems. So it became a big issue running the amalgamation mod because I have like in XCOM 2 you have the ranger, the psi operative, the specialist, the grenadier, um, the sniper, the marksman. Are those the classes? And then your hero classes, I believe. I believe those are the classes. Yeah, 4, and then the psyops, and then the heroes. So there's 8 classes, right? Amalgamation takes that crazy, right? And so I could be running teams that aren't grenadiers, but they've got the autocannon with them. And so, like last week, I had a mission where everybody on the mission was carrying shotguns, which is incredibly rare for XCOM 2. Amalgamation's been a lot of fun, but figuring that out was eye-opening and helpful. So anyway, I'm trying to figure out, and this keeps crashing. Main action. Armand Jones. Armand J1. Ah. Anyway, I got distracted because is there a way to find Armand? Let's try disabling this one. I'm not using these, so it's not a big deal, but what I'm trying to do is figure out who's using this method so I can see how it's used. And every time I'm right clicking to go find how it's used, there we go. We were getting errors. Also, getting rid of those has cut down my memory usage. So find usages. So it's only used in navigate to cell, really. So that exists there, but it's only used here. So we can make update selected a private method in our store. But we've got to figure out how to use it, right? So Rx method, if we look, update selected takes in a cell state, and it returns a grid state. Why is it returning a grid state? Alt Shift F12. Because we're not even using it. Oh, it's because updater uses this, right? This dot updater comes from, and it's been so long since I've used ComponentStore. And yeah, you've got to return what you wanted to update with. Okay. I was confused why we were returning stuff, but okay. So the updater is taking the state and it's setting this grid state back in it. We're calling update selected, which returns this grid state, and then we're putting the grid state back in. And if we take a look at update selected, oh, and the right method returns what's created. Okay, I see what's going on here. Okay, and so this needs to be a cell state right here. We can say, hey, you're a cell state. And then our Rx method can then go immediately into a pipe. And we can grab the pipe from RxJS. And now we're where we want to be. So inside of the pipe, we can tap. And our tap will now take the state and we'll do something with it, right? So here we go. It's cool that it recognizes that, hey, because it's not used here, it's also not used here. Oh, no, that's not the case. This is a cell state. This is not a state. So we've got our cell state. So now we can go and we can take a look at using update selected. So here, we're going to say the updater is that. And we're calling it with the state that we bring in. And the state is a grid state. And this returns a grid state because it's using a grid state, but so here, what we want to do is now we can say, hey, we can say updater on state, I believe. And updater void has no call signature. Oh, because I didn't return this. I need to return the write function. So sorry, just making sure that my wife doesn't need me. So we're using this write function. What this write function does is it goes in and it basically mutates the state. We're passing in a grid state. And this is going to return a grid state. You don't really need to do this. So cell state is not a grid state, it's a cell state. Taking a cell state, we're setting that up. The write function takes that in. And so we pull in patch state here. Patch state takes in our state object, right? So there's our state object. And then the second parameter to patch state is the updaters. So we're patching the state, and then can I just call updater here? See, the thing I don't know I don't think we need this anymore. Which means we can just return a method that takes a grid state. And really, we can just say that we want to update selected with our cell state. And this needs to be a function. I believe. What are we getting wrong here? Oh, did that not do it? Return state, grid state. That's a function that takes in a grid state, and I think the problem here um, is that it needs to return something. Um, well, really, we could just return this. Um, and next to focus could be undefined. And here, selected could be that. And we don't even really need this. We just need that. So now we've simplified things quite a bit from the yeah, we've definitely simplified things quite a bit from before. Before we were using a write and doing all this stuff to make sure that stuff stayed immutable. Golang or Elixir? For your question, I don't know which would be easier to pick up. They're both a different way of programming. Um, Picking up Elixir would probably be useful, but I don't know. Um, Man, it could be difficult. Um, I don't know. Um, I would say whatever you decide to do, I'd love to hear how it goes. I haven't done Golang or Elixir. Elixir's on my list of things that I say I want to learn, but I haven't taken the time to do it. Um, so, um, and good luck to you. I really hope it goes well. Um, anyway, so now we've got our update selected. We've simplified it quite a bit because we aren't trying to maintain, we aren't using mutative. We'll probably wind up taking mutative out because we don't really need immutable data here. Um, and that's one of the nice things about SignalStore is we've got the patch method where we can just pass it, pieces of data, and it patches it however it decides, right? And by calling patch state, um, our stuff will be notified um, as we're patching this, right? So next to focus gets set to nothing, and selected gets set to this, right? Um, so that one went fairly well. Command stack, current command index. So this is all the command pattern stuff we added to do the undo and redo and all of that. So we may have to come back to that. Reset selected. What is reset select? Well, we're going to need to add this one too. That's my computed. I don't need that one open anymore. But we'll take a look at reset selected. Reset selected. And again, this has to be an RX method. And here we can say it's a void RX method. And then again, we're going to jump right into a pipe and a tap. Right. So there we go. We're right into a pipe and a tap. So we need to figure out what reset selected does on the state. That was not the key I wanted to hit. I wanted to hit the F12 key. Okay, so that's just patching state, setting selected to undefined. So that's pretty easy. We can just patch state. I'm going to patch state, and we're going to set selected next to focus to undefined. This is where it would be good to introduce an optional. I think we may do that. So we can basically replace these rights with patch state. So our reset selected just basically sets it. I don't know. I'm going to leave it because I don't think, like, if we don't have something selected next to focus should not be set. There might have been a bug in there before that Copilot just fixed for us. So there's reset selected. Cell value changed is an effect. We'll come back to this one. Because that is crazy effect. Clear old commands is an effect. Update command stack is an effect. Create puzzle cell is an effect. Pencil marks is an effect. Effect. Toggle create puzzle mode. This is also an effect. And I used a lot of effects, huh? Reset grid is an effect. Updater. Solve one cell is an effect. An effect. I'm looking for public entries to a lot of these private methods so we can bring them over probably as modules. So navigate to cell is an effect. Undo is an effect. I think these are effects because we're watching click streams that are passed in, right? Yes, that's what we're doing. So we're watching this undo click stream as it comes in. Effects. Man. Okay. So these two functions that we moved over, we can put into their own feature also. So let's do that. Let's extract these to a feature, and then we'll take a look at like the cell value changed effect. And I think that's where we're going to end for the day. Yeah. So again, we're looking at the grid store, right? So we've added these two methods, update selected and reset selected. So we need these methods on our store, but we want it to be a feature. So we're going to again go here. And we are going to add a new TypeScript file. We're going to call this grid. What do we want to call it? We're going to call it grid dot selected or manage. Actually, we'll just do grid manage selected dot feature ts. And I'm adding the dot feature.ts to tell us that this is a SignalStore feature. And so we're going to do very, very similar to this one, right? Where we're going to export the function and we're going to return a SignalStore feature that has this type on it. So we're going to do a very, very similar thing to create this. Yeah, RX method is really cool. And it beats ComponentStore because RX method, you can actually pass it a signal like you mentioned, right? And we made heavy use of passing in observables to the old store. So like these effects are passing in observables that we're getting from someplace else. And so I want to take a look at how we're using that. But here, so what we want to do is export function. This is going to be with manage selected. And we're going to do that. And so here we're going to return a SignalStore feature. Yep. So we need to bring in SignalStore feature. And right off the bat, we want that type. Yep. Do want that type. State is grid state. Yep. We'll need to bring both of these in. And then the next thing we can do is just from the grid store, we can just grab these with methods right here. So boom, we'll grab that. Did I not grab enough? There we go. And we can paste the with method in right here. And so then the next thing we need to do is just grab our update selected. Boom. And our update selected can go here. And that should be all we need for this feature. And so then the last thing we can do is we can just say, hey, we want with manage selected. And there we go. And now we're all cleaned up and good to go. And we're keeping our store smaller. So the reason I like to do this is that now I can look at the store and I can say, okay, we're using computed stuff on it. We're managing the selected. Oh, look at that. I named that funny. Let's go ahead and remove one of the extra C's from selected. Well, I pronounced that wrong. Selected. There we go. So manage selected is there. And the nice thing about this is that we can test these by themselves. And that's another thing that I want to take a look at is making our tests easier because we can test the with grid computed by itself. And we can test the with manage selected by itself. and verify that they work. And that makes it so that we have to do a lot less work with the SignalStore itself because it's composed of features that are already tested. So there we go. So that feature is now in place. So let's go ahead and commit that. So we added with manage selected feature. We push that up. And you know, the point of doing this exercise is one, to see what it would actually take, but two, it kind of gives you know, it gives me, and hopefully it gives you guys also the ability to understand what the trade-offs are here, right? Like, what is the time complexity of doing this? How hard is it? So cell value changed is in effect. It takes in a cell value change option. It also grabs the grid and creating puzzle mode. So we can't do this one without doing creating puzzle mode. What is creating puzzle mode? That's a selector on creating puzzle mode. So we can grab that. We also don't need the with latest from. This actually doesn't behave the way you would expect it to behave. So this takes in an effect of cell value changed options, but it's also doing stuff when the grid changes and when creating puzzle mode changes. And this is where we want to introduce XState, because this is a state machine right here. Instead of using a flag, when they turn on create puzzle mode, we could swap the state, and then the state machine would handle create puzzle, right? So we would just do create cell value, and it in the puzzle state machine, it would know to do things specially versus this, but we need to recreate this. The cell value changed, create the puzzle cell. So this is all part of the command stack. So we'll come back to this one. Let's look at the puzzle mode. Clear old commands, create puzzle cell, update pencil marks, set region, toggle create puzzle mode. This is the one that I think we want to do next, is this toggle create puzzle mode. And then I think we're going to end here. See, this is a bit crazy that we're doing this. Because if something outside of this effect were to change creating puzzle mode, then we would change. That is crazy. We can definitely simplify this. I'm curious. Why this doesn't. Because creating puzzle mode. So we set it's the memoization. This has a potential bug in it because this with latest from could emit. So right, so we get here. We set up this effect, right, and anytime they click that button, we call this creating puzzle. We also get it with the latest from creating puzzle mode, but this set create puzzle mode itself turns around and modifies create puzzle mode, but because it's been set and it's coming in with the same value, I don't think. No, it would. I don't know why this. Hmm. I need to look up how with latest from works. Um, RxJS with latest from. Because I'm curious why that doesn't get into an infinite loop. Let's look at the learn RxJS one first, because they'll probably have a marbles diagram. So we've got a source of that and a second source of that. So that with that first and second, 5 seconds, first, seconds, 0, 4. Okay. So with latest from only emits when the first source emits. That's why. That's crazy that I couldn't remember that. It's been so long since I've done something like this. Um, we don't need this anymore though. We can just grab these two. So we just need these two right here. Um, don't need that. We don't need that. Here, again, we're just going to go with methods. We're going to pull in our state. Boom. And let's grab our methods. Oh, sorry about that. And let's paste this in. So toggle create puzzle mode is going to be an Rx method. So we're going to go with an Rx method, which we'll pull in. And it is going to be a void. And then I believe we can get rid of that and that and move this to here. Boom. So we can grab the pipe here. We don't need that. We don't need the with latest from because we'll just grab it off of the state. And so in our tap, oh, interesting. I did an observer on our tap. So this tap doesn't need to be like this. We can just actually do that. And here we can grab this. Yeah. And paste it here. But this is where like what Michael was talking about before, we can actually do here, we can say, um, with methods up here. And again, we want our state. We want that, and we want that, comma there. And this code now goes up into there. What did I do? That matches, that matches. So here we put that in place. And now I think we can do an underscore here because underscores will make this private. And so at this point, we don't even need, actually, I don't even need, this can just be a function. And this can take in creating puzzle mode, which is a Boolean. And there's that, and let's get that in there. You can paste this. And this is going to return some stuff. So actually, it doesn't need to. It doesn't need to at all. All we need to do is just go in and patch the state. So we can just say, hey, patch the state. And here we're going to say we're going to patch state, and we want to return a partial, and this partial is just going to be creating puzzle mode. Boom. Which means we can get rid of this updater. So now we've got this method set create puzzle mode. So here now we can just do state dot underscore set create puzzle mode. And so now we need to figure out what creating puzzle mode should be. And really, we can just grab it from the state. We can just say, hey, state dot creating puzzle mode. Boom. And so now we've got our toggle. And this kind of goes back to what Michael was saying before. We could have done this with a function here, right? We could have created a function, set create puzzle mode, and then inside of here we called it and things like that. Well, this is dumb. Why are we doing this? Do we call create puzzle mode anywhere else? If I go to find usages. No, there's only one usage of this entire function anywhere. And the reason that we did it is because we were using the mutative stuff, right? We're not using that anymore, so we don't need it. So again, if we take a look at this store, this is all I need is this piece right here. So creating puzzle mode becomes not state dot creating puzzle mode, and it's a signal, so we need to call it. Boom. We no longer need this. So that becomes a lot simpler. Much simpler, which is crazy. I mean, I did introduce some more complexity with using mutative here. Um, but we simplified it by quite a bit, quite a bit. And so now we can pull this out, right? So again, we're going to add a new TypeScript file. And here we can just call this our puzzle mode feature.ts. And then in the store, well, actually, we can just say, hey, export function with puzzle mode. We need to make sure that we've got the underscore here. That's a fix that, man, without that fix, I did some crazy stuff. Trying to get the types to work out because it would complain about the types. But man, so we want to return a SignalStore feature. Let's go ahead and import that. And the first thing we want to do is just say, hey, we've got a state and type of type. Boom, and actually got this wrong. It's type with a state on it. We'll import that type. And then here, this is state, and this is a grid state. So we'll import our grid state. And then the next thing we need to do is just do copy over our with methods. And this is the nice thing about SignalStore. Is you can work on stuff right there in the store itself. And then once you're ready to move it into its own feature, it's largely copy and paste, right? So with puzzle mode, right? And that's it. And the nice thing about this is like, if this becomes too big, we can compose these down too. And that's one of the big features of SignalStore is it's so composable, right? So like with computed, add some stuff. With managed selected, add some stuff. With puzzle mode, add some stuff, right? But we don't have to worry too much about the rest. And really, the last thing we're going to do is just the with undo redo. And I believe that's all. Which is crazy. And the cool thing about it is, like I said, we can test these on their own because they should stand by themselves. And the nice thing about doing this is like this with puzzle mode will go away when we move over to X state because the puzzle mode is what's going to be swapping our state machine, right, from different states. So we'll go from like a normal grid entry state to like a puzzle state, and then there we can create a puzzle and go back, right? And when you're in that grid entry state, certain things happen that don't happen in the other state. But a lot of things are shared between the two, um, which is nice because our state machine will allow us to do that. Um, so we're most of the way there. Reset grid. What is reset grid? So reset grid relies on command stack stuff. And like the solver will, we've got solver stuff that we need to put in there. Um, Man, there's a lot of functionality in here. Oh, cell navigation. We'll need to get the cell navigation in there also. Undo and redo. Um, and there's so much in here. It's crazy how much code I put into one file. Um, that's not a good idea. And now our store is easier to follow, right? Because we've got our computed fields. We can manage what is selected. We can control our puzzle mode. And the nice thing about this is, with our features, as we're looking through the stuff that we haven't moved over, we can decide, does this fit, in one of the existing ones, or does it fit someplace else? But I think that's it for today. We made good progress, really good progress. And I love SignalStore. Like the amount of simplification we get from doing SignalStore versus like ComponentStore. ComponentStore is amazing. And don't feel like you need to get rid of ComponentStore, right? It's still amazing. It still does really cool stuff. I haven't done it in so long. I don't remember a lot of the stuff here. But it's perfectly fine to stay with ComponentStore. There's nothing wrong with it. Um, Anything new you should probably do in SignalStore, and that's what the NGRX team said at ngconf. But if you've got existing ComponentStore, they said they're going to support it, and there's nothing wrong with staying with it. It's a very powerful library. So, yep, exactly, exactly. That's exactly what the NGRX team said, Michael. And that was in one of their keynotes. I think it was in the second day keynote. Um, that's what I want to say. But um, definitely a lot of really cool stuff here. And SignalStore gives us so much power over what ComponentStore can do. And we'll be using like some of the state stuff too. Yeah. Yeah, SignalStore at ngconf was amazing. I made sure I made it to all of their talks on SignalStore because it was so much good stuff said. Um, but anyway, yeah, second day keynote for all the community people. Yeah, that's where Brandon Roberts got up and spoke about analog, and the NGRX team was there. Was that the day that Jeff and Katarina did the Colt thing? That thing was hilarious. If you guys haven't seen that, you should check out that keynote um, where Jeff Cross and Katarina got up and did. They were dressed in like this crazy 80s outfit doing like folk stuff. It was hilarious. Um, anyway, I need to end here. I'm going to commit the code that we did. And I will see you guys next time. Thank you everybody for being here. Thank you everybody for the participation. It was a lot of fun today. I look forward to seeing you guys next time. And